which have been asked in respect to ancient history from since 2013 itself. So here we are going to discuss the questions, official UPSC questions, which were asked from exclusively from ancient part only. Here we are not going to discuss art and culture related question. So if you have any doubts related to art and culture related question, then you can ask this question in the next session that we are going to take. And in today's session, we are going to discuss only question that are related to ancient history. So here we are starting with the 2013 questions which were being asked from ancient history. So there is a PDF that must be open on your screen as well. I want you to open that PDF. I'm sharing my screen with you. And here you can see that there is a question 2000. This question was being asked in 2013. So the first question is related to which of the following characterizes the people of Indus Valley civilization. And three options are given to you. The first option is they possessed great palaces and temples. Second option is they worshipped both male and female deities. And third option is they employed horse-drawn chariots. And there are four options that are given to you. And on the basis of these three statements, you have to answer the correct answer. So first of all, let us look at the first statement. In the first statement, it is being asked that they possess great palaces and temples. You must know that when you read about Indus Valley civilization, during excavations in any site, be it Harappa, be it Mohenjo-daro, be it Lothal, be it Dholavira, in any of these sites, no evidence of great palaces or temples have been found. And this is one of the significant features of Indus Valley civilization. So through this knowledge, through this information, we can say that the first statement is wrong. And if we cut the first statement, then we reach up to the two statement, that is A and C options are cut, and now you have to answer from B and C and D option only. So now let us evaluate the second option. In the second option, it is given that they worshipped both male and female deities. And this statement is correct. On what basis we can say that this statement is correct? Because during excavations, there are terracotta figurines and seals that have been found. And there are various Pashupati seals. Then there are yogic seal that are being found. And even the female deities were also worshipped because terracotta sculptures are being found from various Harappan sites. So this statement is true. And now we can say that the second option is correct. And in the now you can answer that the B statement is correct. But one thing you should understand that if the option D is that none of the statement which is wrong, but you should also have some information about the statement 3. And in the statement 3, it is written that they employed horse-drawn chariots. So during excavation, no such evidence about horses have been found. The horses, it is believed by the scholars that people got familiar with horses during the Rigvedic age only, during in 1500 BC only. Though there are certain bones which are found at sites like Dholavira, but there are certain doubts and no consensus about that whether these bones belong to horse or not. So the statement 3 is incorrect. And on that basis, we can answer that the correct answer is option B. So now we are going to discuss our second question of 2013 year. The second question is, which of the following statements are applicable to Jain doctrine? So this is one of the most important topics which you have to learn in prelims examination. So now you have to answer about what are the following statements are correct about Jainism. The first statement is the surest way to annihilate karmas is to practice penance. You must heard that various kings like Chandragupta also, he at the end of his life, he practiced rigorous penance in southern India, in Shravanbelgola. Okay, so what was his belief? That through this penance, through these practices, he can annihilate his karma and can free his soul from the corruption or all the evil things. So it is an important element of Jain doctrine. In Buddhism, you must heard that there is a middle path, that you should abstain yourself from both joys and both from hard work, or penance. So in this statement, you can learn that this statement is correct because they believe in hard and hardcore practices and penances. So the statement 1 is correct. So now you can reach up to, now you can eliminate option B in the answer. There are 3 options that are available to you. Now coming to the second statement, every object, even the smallest particle, has a soul. This is part of the static information about Jainism itself. And when you read about Jainism, you will get to know that this is one of the significant element of Jainism doctrine. So this is also true. Then the third statement is karma is the bane of the soul and must be ended. If you have some information related to the first statement, now you can understand that third option is also correct. So all the 3 statements are correct in this answer, and the correct answer is option D. Now coming to the third question. In the third question, the question have been asked about Hiuen Tsang, who visited India in 7th century AD only. The question is the Chinese traveler Yuan Shuang or Hiuen Tsang, who visited India, recorded the general conditions and culture of India at that time. In this context, which of the following statement are correct? So the first statement is the roads and river routes were completely immune from robbery. So when you read about these Chinese travelers' accounts, you must learn that twice he was robbed when he was traveling from one place to another. So this is certain that the highways or the roads or the river routes, they were not completely free from the robberies. So this statement is wrong. Now the second statement is as regards punishment for offenses like offenses ordeal by fire, water and poison were the instruments for determining the innocence or guilt of a person. So this is offenses. There is some spelling mistake. So in ancient period, this was one of the most common practices to ensure that whether a person is guilty or not. And through these practices, like the guilty person or the accused was told to walk on the fire, to walk in water, and he was also poisoned. And it was assumed that if he comes out alive, then he is innocent, otherwise he is guilty. So second statement is true. Then the third option is the tradesmen had to pay duties at ferries and barrier station. And this statement is true for almost all the empires, all the dynasties throughout the period. So this third statement is correct. So now the option that is available to us is option B. That is statement 2 and 3 only are correct. Now we are going to discuss, so in 2013, exclusively from ancient India, 3 questions were being asked. And now we are going to discuss about 2014 years question. I will take the doubts at the end of the session. I want you to listen whatever I'm discussing right now, and you can ask your doubts at the end of the session when I complete 2023 questions. So in 2014, one question was being asked, and this question was related to the life of Buddha. So the wording of the question is, which of the following kingdoms were associated with life of Buddha? And there are 4 places or 4 the areas that are given in the options. First is Avanti, second is Gandhar, third is Kosala, and fourth is Magda. And now you can also use the elimination technique. You must know that the Bimbisar, the Haranyak king of Magad, he was follower of Buddha, and he also met Buddha and was converted to Buddhism under his influence only. So the fourth statement is true. So now we come to the B, C and D option. Then Kosala, Buddha has family relations with the Kosala kingdom. So the third statement is also true. Now coming to Gandhar, in the lifetime of Buddha, he never visited these areas. Though we hear about Gandhar school of sculpture, in which the sculptures of Buddha were made, that were during the Kushan period only. So Gandhar is not directly related to life of Buddha. Those sculptures were made of him in this school only. So the second statement is incorrect. Then there is Avanti. This kingdom is also not directly related to life of Buddha. There was certain exchange of a physician called Jivika between the rulers of the Avanti and Magda. But this place is not related to the life of Buddha. So the option 1 and 2 are wrong, and 3 and 4 are correct. So the correct option is option C. Now in 2015, same question with the same option was given, and the answer is also same. Only the Kosala and Magadha are correct, and other two statements are, or other two places are wrong. Now coming to, so you can see that in 2014 and 15, same question was being asked, and other than that, only one question was being asked from ancient history part. Now coming to 2016 years questions. And in at this time, two questions were being asked. So the first question is, which one of the following books of ancient India has the love story of the son of founder of the Shung dynasty? So in this, there are four options which are given. That one is Swapna Vasudhatta, then Malvika Agnimitra, then Meghdut, and then Ratnavali. And this question can also be attempted through the elimination technique also. First of all, Shunga dynasty's king's son name was Agnimitra, and Malvika was the girl with whom he was in love with. So the correct answer obviously is B, Malvika Agnimitra. But now I am telling you that how can you attend this question through elimination technique. First of all, if we take Ratnavali, this was written by Harshvardhan. So of course this is wrong. Then Meghdut, a very famous literature. This was written by Kalidas only. So also this option is wrong. Then first one is also a play that was written by Bhasha. So this is also wrong. And the only option that is left is Malvika Agnimitra. And even if you pay some attention to the words, that is Malvika and Agnimitra, now you can understand there is a name of a woman as well as a man in this name, in this word. So by this technique only you can also answer this question. Now coming to the second question that was being asked. The question is, in the context of the history of India, consider the following pairs. On one side there are terms, and on the other side there are description. And the first term is Eripatti. Eripatti is land revenue from which was set apart for maintenance of village tank. And second is Taniyurs, that is villages donated to single Brahmin or a group of Brahmins. And third is Ghatika, that were colleges generally attached to the temples. So first of all, this can also be attempted through elimination technique also. You must have heard that Brahmadiya were the villages that were donated to the Brahmins or group of Brahmins during this time period only. And in this way, you can eliminate the second option, that Taniyurs is not related to the villages that were donated to the Brahmins. So the statement 2 is wrong. And so option 1, A and C can be eliminated. And there are two options left, that is B and D. And in both the option, one common statement is, that is 3 is correct. So now you have to ensure that whether first term is correct or not. But if you read ancient history in a rigorous way or in a very detailed manner, then of course you will get to know that Eripatti is true. That land revenue from which was set apart the maintenance of village tank. So the correct option is option D. That is 1 and 3rd statement are correct and statement 2 is wrong. So now coming to 2017 question. In this question, this is also very important theme in ancient history, because a lot of, and even at the most of the alternative years, these questions have been asked. So the question number 1 is, with reference to the difference between culture of Rigvedic Aryans and Indus Valley people, which of the following statements are correct? First option or first statement is, Rigvedic Aryans used the coat of mail and helmet in warfare, whereas the people of the Indus Valley civilization did not leave any evidence of using them. So in the first statement, you have to tell that what kind of society was Rigvedic society and Indus Valley society. And if when you read Indus Valley civilization, you must have heard that a lot of weapons or destruction type of weapons are not being found on these sites. And it is also considered, generally it is considered that they were very peace-loving people. So that is why there is no evidence of using coat of mail or helmet by the Indus Valley civilization people. But Rigvedic Aryans are considered that they were migrated from the Central Asia only. And they were warlike people. They used to attack other tribes or other people and used to capture those areas. This is one of the theory. Okay, so it is believed that they use the coat of mail. It is like a protective armor only, and a helmet that one has to protect from the weapons. It is kind of a coat that was being worn by Rigvedic Aryans. So in this way, the statement 1 is correct. Now coming to statement 2. In statement 2, it is given that Rigvedic Aryans knew gold, silver and copper, whereas Indus Valley people knew only copper and iron. This statement can also be solved by if you have some information about one or two things. For example, you must have heard that Indus Valley civilization is also called as bronze civilization, and bronze is combination of zinc and copper only. So it is said that the Indus Valley people, in this statement it is written that the Indus Valley people knew only copper and iron, but we know that iron came into the in a later Vedic period only. So that is why you can eliminate this option that this statement is wrong, because the people of Indus Valley, they did not know iron, but they knew bronze as well. So the statement 2 is wrong. Then the statement 3 is Rigvedic Aryans had domesticated the horse, whereas there is no evidence of Indus Valley people having aware of this animal. And this statement is true, as we have also discussed this in our first question in 2013 question. So the correct answer is C, that 1 and 3 are correct and statement 2 is wrong. Now coming to 2018 year's question, and only one question is being asked from this ancient history part. So the question is, with reference to Indian history, who among the following is the future Buddha yet to come to save the world? And this is part of static knowledge only, and you must have heard that the Maitreya is the future Buddha. So through this information, you can solve this question. Now coming to 2019 question, and this in this question you have to answer about which of the following is not a Harappan site. That is Chunhadro, Kot Desi, Sohagoda and Desalpur. And most of the people are aware of the two sites, that is Chunhadro and Kot Desi, because these are very famous and very popular sites of Indus Valley civilization. And people and the candidates or students can get stuck in the two options, that is whether Sohagoda or Desalpur is the correct option. And this can also be solved through elimination technique, because Desalpur is a very lesser known site of Indus Valley civilization only. And this exists, this is located in Gujarat region. But though most of the books or the standard books skip this site, so many of the students are not aware of this site. But this is also an important site, because pottery, seals and other various elements that were related to Indus Valley civilization are found in this site. But when you read about Ashoka or Mauryan period, then you must have heard that there are various Ashokan edicts that are found across Indian subcontinent. And one of them, one of the important one is Sohagoda inscription or rock edict of Ashoka. So Sohagoda is related to Ashoka or Mauryan period. And in this way, you can answer that option C is the correct answer, because this is not a Harappan site and related to Ashoka only. Then coming to second question, with reference to forced labor, that is Vishti, in India during the Gupta period, which one of the following statement is correct? So now you have to answer that what was Vishti actually in Gupta period. So four statements are given. It was considered a source of income for a state, a sort of tax paid by the people. I'm going to skip all the other three options, because this is the correct answer actually. Option 1 is the correct answer. So in this, yes, option 1 is the correct answer, because you must have heard in the Gupta period that there were various kinds of taxes that were obliged to pay by the people to the state. But Vishti is one of the very important one, because people were expected to work for the ruler or the administrator, but no wages were paid to the people for their labor. And that is why this Vishti is considered as a forced labor. This is not that they were forced to work, but the forced word is used because they were not paid. That is why. And it was not optional. That is why forced labor word is used. Now coming to the third question. In the third question, you have to answer that what were the features of Mahayana Buddhism. So now you must have noticed that a lot of questions have been asked from Buddhism section as well as Jainism section, then Rigvedic Aryan and Indus Valley people, Indus Valley civilization. So here you have to answer that which of the above is the feature or features of Mahayana Buddhism. So Mahayana considered as new school or the liberal school of Buddhism, and Hinayan is considered as old school or orthodox school of Buddhism. So when you consider that something is more liberal, then of course there is a lot of scope for improvisation. Then it is also possible that the people, they evolve their techniques or beliefs in the sect, and a lot of another practices got involved into their sect. So first is deification of Buddha. This is it, that किसी को देवता की तरह पूजने लग जाना. So they started worshipping Buddha as a deity. Then second is treading the path of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas were like monks only, the followers of Buddhism who were on the path of enlightenment, but they were yet to attain enlightenment. So that is later to Mahayana Buddhism also. Then image worship and rituals. This is also true that the one of the most important reason which was the cause of division between Mahayana and Hinayan is this image worship and rituals only, because Hinayan Buddhists, they believe that the image worship should not be there, ritual should not be there, and the religion should be, or the sect should be in the purest form. But Mahayanis, they believe that the image worship of Buddha should be there. So all the three statements are correct with respect to Mahayana Buddhism. Now coming to 2020 question. Which of the following phrases define the nature of Hundi generally referred to in the sources of post-Harsha period? So post-Harsha period is after 7th century AD only. So there is a term called as Hundi, and they are asking that what was this Hundi term related to? And in simple word, it was actually option C is correct. It was a bill of exchange. Suppose that at one place agent is sitting, a trader goes to that agent, he pays that agent money, whatever, and that agent, he issues a hundi that this amount of money is being paid to him by this trader only. Then that trader goes to another place, he gives hundi or the bill of exchange to the trader that is sitting over that region and receives money. So there was a lot of easiness in traveling as well, because the trader don't have to carry money with him due to safety purposes also and logistics purpose also. So the option C is correct, that it was a bill of exchange. Now coming to the question number 2. Who among the following rulers advised his subjects through this inscription? Whosoever praises his religious sects or blames other sects of the excessive devotion of his own sect with the view of glorifying his own sect, he rather injures his own sect very severely. So there are 4 options: Ashok, Samudragupta, Harshvardhan, and Krishnadev Raya. And you must have heard that or read that Ashoka was one of the first rulers who used religion as a source or as a medium to propagate his political ideas or diplomatic ideas. So Ashok is the correct answer, but you can also do this through elimination technique. Now you can, if you think that Samudragupta is correct answer, because he also issued a Prayagraj or Allahabad Prayag Prasishti, but this option is wrong, because in that inscription, he mostly talk about what was his conquest, what was his kind of glorification only, and no religious kind of preachings are given in that inscription. And Harshvardhan also, there is no known inscription of Harshvardhan that is known to the scholars. Then Krishnadev Raya also, because he came into the very later period, 15th, 16th century only. So that is why Ashok is the right answer, because he used religion as a medium to propagate the political ideas of his state. Now coming to the third question. With reference to the period of Gupta dynasty in ancient India, the towns Ghantashala, Kadura, and Chaul were known as, and when you read about Gupta dynasty and the economics part of Gupta dynasty only, then you must have heard that these 3 places were important ports that were handling foreign trade. And all these 3 places are located on the western coast of India. That is, Chaul is in present-day Maharashtra, Kadura and Ghantashala is also around these places only. And these ports were used by the Gupta dynasty to trade with the other dynasties, other rulers in western part of India. So the correct answer is option A. Now coming to 2021 year's question. The question 1 is, which of the following Asian towns is well known for its elaborate system of water harvesting and management by building a series of dams and channelizing water into connected reservoirs? And this question is also important because Dholavira is declared as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and also Dholavira is given this status due to this significant feature, that is elaborate system of water harvesting and management of building of series of dams. And that is why, and due to various other features also, this UNESCO World Heritage Site status is given to Dholavira. So the correct answer is Dholavira only. Now coming to the second question. From the decline of Guptas, that is the period after 5th century AD, until the rise of Harshvardhan, that is in 7th century. So now you have to discuss period from 5th century to 7th century. In the early 7th century, which of the following kingdoms were holding power in northern India? And there are 6 dynasties or 6 rulers that are given in the option. And this question you can easily do through elimination technique only, because it is not possible for you to remember all the dynasties and their respective time periods. And now how can you solve this question? First of all, now let us discuss the Guptas of Magda. Okay, the Guptas were ruling in that Ganga Yamuna plains only, Doab only. Not only Doab, these plains of all from Magda region to western part of up to Punjab only. Okay, so Guptas of Magda, of course, they were there because even after decline of Guptas, there were certain dynasties that were ruling in Magda region. So the option 1 is correct. Though the peak or the most important phase of Gupta period, they declined, but there were certain successors of the Gupta rulers that were still ruling in that area. So the option 1 is correct. Then comes to the Parmars of Malwa. Now you can skip or not answer it, because if you are not aware with this option. Now what you can do, now you are coming to the third option, the Pushyabhutis of Thaneshwar. Okay, so Harshvardhan is related to Pushyabhuti dynasty only, and through this technique you can answer that yes, this dynasty was there, because you have to answer that until the rise of Harshvardhan. Harshvardhan belonged to this dynasty only, and that is why this dynasty was there during this time period. So option 3 is correct. Then coming to Mokris of Kannauj. Then you can skip this option also here, because if you don't know the exact answer. Then coming to the 5th option, that is Yadavas of Devgiri. You must have heard that that this ruler called as Alauddin Khilji, he had conflict with Yadavas of Devgiri. Okay, and this dynasty was there in 12th to 14th century. And in this way, you can skip, you can mention that, or you can eliminate this option, because they were not there in the time period of early 7th century. So if you cut the option 5, then you can reach to the 50-50 part of the option, that you have to answer between, that is B or C is the correct answer. Okay, now coming to the Maitreyas of Vallabhi. When you read about Vallabhi, these rulers were ruling in the present-day Gujarat area only, and they were also present during this time period only. So option B is the correct answer. Now, through elimination, you can answer this question, that if you eliminate option 3, that is option 5, sorry, that Yadavas of Devgiri, they were there during the 12th to 14th century. And now you can answer this question. I will take the doubts last if you have any doubt related to this question. Now let's proceed to the next question. In the third question, there is reference to 2 systems. One is Mitaksha and second one is Dayabag. With reference to history of ancient India, which of the following statements are correct? First option is Mitaksha was the civil law for upper caste and Dayabag was the civil law for lower caste. And this option is, of course, wrong. The reason being is, first of all, these these were divided based on the region only. That is this, for example, this system called as Mitaksha, this was applicable to all over India except the parts of Bengal and Assam. And Dayabag, it was applicable on these 2 parts only. And they both deal with the inheritance laws only. So there is no clear-cut division that whether this one is dealing with upper caste only and another one is lower caste only. So this option is wrong. Now coming to the second option, in the Mitaksha school, the sons can claim the right to the property during the lifetime of the father, whereas in the Daya Bhag system, it is only after the death of the father that the son can claim the right of the property. And this question is also you cannot find in the static books. This question is being asked because there was an article in Indian Express. Okay, and from that article only there was some court judgment about co-parcenary rights between males and females, and that is why this question is being asked from the current affairs only. And so you cannot answer this question if you don't have any information about what was the system, and also if you haven't read about that judgment. So this is the part of static information only. So the second option is right. Okay. Now coming to the third option. Third statement, the Mitaksha school deals with matter related to property held by male members only of a family, whereas Daya Bhag system deals with the matter related to property held by both the male and female members of the family. This is wrong. Again, there is some factual mistake that is in there, that no, it was related with both the genders. That is why this statement is wrong. So the correct option is option B. So only two option is correct and other two options 1 and 3 are wrong. And also about some static information about a Mitaksha school is that it is actually a commentary on Yagyavalk Samiti, and that is where various rules were framed, actually civil laws that were framed related to inheritance only. So now coming to the 2022 question, according to Kautilya's Arthashastra, which of the following are correct? And again, this you should have very deep knowledge about Kautilya's Arthashastra if you want to answer this question. And the first statement is a person could be a slave as a result of a judicial punishment, and this is true for this period also, to the previous periods also, and to the succeeding periods also. So the first statement is correct. If a female slave bore her master a son, she was legally free, and this is also true. Right now, I cannot explain that why this was true or why this was false. Actually, these statements are given in Arthashastra only. And if you read or Google about these lines or this content, then you can learn that these statements are true. Then the third is, if a son born to a woman slave was fathered by her master, the son was entitled to the legal status of the master's son. So all the three options are correct in this answer. So the correct answer is option D. Now coming to the second question. With reference to Indian history, consider the following pairs. And here three options are being given. And in this question, you have to answer that which of the option is correct. So here there are three options: Aryadev, Dignath, and Nath Muni. And in front of them, there are three statements that whether they were a Jaina scholar or Buddhist scholar or Vaishnava scholar. So the correct answer is only two pairs are correctly matched. Because first of all, Nath Muni, he was actually that is true, that he was a Vaishnava scholar. And same with Dignath. But with Aryadev, the statement is wrong. That is why this question is not true. This statement is not true. The correct answer is answer B. Now coming to 2023 questions. With reference to ancient South India, Korkai, Pompuhar, Muchiri were well known as. When you read about all the three kingdoms in Sangam age, that is Chola, Chera, Pandya, these three kingdoms were based in southern part of India only. And you must also heard of Korkai and Pompuhar. These are in present day Andhra Pradesh region only. And when you look at their location, then you will get to know that these are important ports of those dynasties. So the correct answer is option B, that Korkai, Pompuhar, and Muchiri, they were well known as ports during that time period only. Then the question 2, which of the following explain the practice of Vatta Kirutal as mentioned in Sangam points? And this question or this statement you can find in many standard books that are being referred for study of ancient history. So the correct answer is option D, that a king defeated in a battle committing ritual suicide by starving himself to death. Because there are various hero stones that were being erected on the places or on the name of those kings who did that practice, that is practice of Vatta Kirutal. Then now coming to the question number 3. Consider the following dynasties. There are 4 dynasties: Hoysala, Gahdawal, Kakatiya and Yadavas. These are given and you have to answer that how many of the above dynasties established their kingdoms in early 8th century AD. And this question can also be attempted through elimination technique only. But in this question, there are options are different. Now you have to, you should be aware with all the 4 options, because only 1, only 2, only 3 and none. This is given, and now you cannot use elimination technique directly, but indirectly you can use this technique. For example, Hoysala. You must have heard that Hoysala, they came into the around 10th, 11th, 12th century only. So they are being asked the question. In the question, it is written that in early 8th century. So this is wrong. So first option is wrong. Now coming to the Gahdawalas. So Gahdawalas, you must have heard that Jayachand, who was an important ruler of this dynasty, and this dynasty was based in Kannauj only. And there was conflict with the Prithviraj Chauhan with this dynasty, because his wife Sanyokita, she belonged to this empire or this dynasty only. And this ruler was also defeated by Muhammad Ghori only in 12th century. So, of course, now you can understand that this dynasty is related to 10th, 12th century. So, this is also wrong. Now, Kakatiyas. Kakatiyas were based in Warangal region of southern part of India only. And they are also related with around 13th century, 14th century, they are related with. Then, of course, Yadavas. They are also related with the 10th to 10th. In 10th century, actually the rise started, and in 14th century, they declined. So in this way, you can answer that all the 4 options are wrong. So the correct answer is option D. Now I'm going to take the doubts, and after taking doubts, I'm going to discuss that what are the important portions of ancient history which you should read and remember, and what are the unimportant parts of the ancient history which you can skip also, because they are not relevant for prelims point of view. For example, the Stone Age. Okay, and now I will take your doubts. Now one by one you can ask your doubts. Any doubts? If you have any doubt related to these questions, now you can ask, or otherwise we are going to discuss what are the important things that you should be aware about ancient history. Okay. We are going to discuss about what are the most important themes or most important topics that you should do for ancient history. For example, first most important one is Indus Valley Civilization. And for this particular topic, you should be aware of the sites, important sites. Then what are the features of this civilization, that whether they were urban or rural, what kind of economic system was prevalent, then what was the character of the civilization, then what was the relation with other regions like Mesopotamian or Sumerian civilization. This you should be very much aware of about Indus Valley Civilization. Then coming to Vedic Age. In Vedic Age, you should be aware of early Vedic Age also and later Vedic Age also. And what were the significant changes that took place from Indus Valley Civilization to Vedic Age? For example, introduction of horse and iron. That are the most important significant features of this Vedic Age. And one important question that is being asked repeatedly is that what was the difference between the Indus Valley Civilization and Vedic Age? So what were the developments which took place from after the decline of Indus Valley Civilization in 1750 BC and rise of Aryans in 1500 BC? Then comparison part is done. Then fourth important topic is Buddhism. This part you should do in very detailed manner. You should Google or take help of internet to write about various schools, sects, philosophy, symbols, and kingdoms that are related to Buddhism. And what is the philosophy of Buddhism? That whether they believe in soul or not, whether they believe in karma or not, whether they believe in rebirth or not. And also you should do same with Jainism also, because, and this part you should do with in a comparison form. For example, you should make a table, and on one side you should write Buddhism and another Jainism. Then you should mention what are the similarities between two. Then you should also mention what are the differences between two. And this part should be done in a very detailed manner. Okay, then the fourth part is Buddhism, fifth is Jainism, sixth is travelers' accounts. So there are three important travelers that visited India in ancient period. First is Fahian. He visited during the time period of 4th century, during the period of Chandragupta. Okay, and the another is Hume Sang, and Hume Sang visited during the time period of Harshvardhan in 7th century. And there is one Ising. He also traveled during the same time period only. And you should mention, or you should remember, that what are the important developments that they wrote in their books, because they also wrote some of the books about the traveling, or what they saw in India during their travels. So you should be aware with this topic. Then the important dynasties and their time period, because this question is being asked repeatedly nowadays in recent years. Okay, so you should make a table. In that table you should mention all the important dynasties from Mauryan dynasty up to the present day, or the latest that you can write. Okay, and this should be written in a very chronological number. Then all the important founders and ruler you should also remember that. But one thing you should do very rigorously is that you should remember these dynasties on tips. Okay, that what was this dynasty's time period and what were the contemporary dynasties within that time period only. Then sorry, I missed Mauryan age. Okay, in the Mauryan age you should mention about all the important inscriptions or edicts of Ashoka, and also you should mention what were the exploits of various rulers like Chandragupta, Bindusar, Ashok, Udayan. These you should remember. And what were the, and in art and culture part you will also understand that what were the places like Ajivika related caves in Barabar that were commissioned by these rulers. Then you should also read about Sangam age. In the Sangam age you should remember literature, all the important dynasties, all the ports and economic activities related to this. And also you should remember all the important terminologies that are related to this time period only. Then related to Gupta period, you should remember guilds, Vishti and rulers, and what were the other developments related to art and culture also, that you can also mention in art and culture part. But here also you should be very well versed with this time period, because this is a very important time period and repeatedly question have been asked from Gupta age. And by doing these 9-10 topics only, you can score good marks. You can solve up to 80% of question also. Then you should not be very much fearful of ancient history, because now you must have noticed that at most 3 questions have been asked. But what are the students they are fearful that a lot of complex questions are being asked, but these questions are very simple, and sometimes they are also being repeatedly asked. So in this way you should remember all the important topics that you should learn about. Then in previous session I told you to make a A4 size sheet, and in that A4 size sheet you should mention question from 2013 to 2023, and important keywords should be mentioned in front of them, so that you should be very well aware that in which year which question is being asked. For example, this PDF only. In this PDF, you must have, you can download this PDF and you can color code this PDF that, okay, Indus Valley related, there are 3 or 4 questions that are being asked in 10 years. So Gupta related, there are 4 questions that are being asked. So in this way, you will be very much aware that what are the important topics or what are the important themes on which repeatedly questions have been asked. And you can also pay less attention to the questions which are not being asked for 10 years. For example, for Stone Age. In the Stone Age, at most what you can do is you can remember the time period and the significant places that are related to those period. For example, for Paleolithic age, what are the important sites which are found in India, and what are the important tools that are found, what kind of economic activities they performed. And for the Mesolithic, same, then the Neolithic, same. Neolithic is somewhat important because a lot of significant changes took place in that time period only. and again Chalcolithic period. These four period you can make in a comparison form that okay, here the people are hunters and gatherers. In second phase, okay, they are domesticating some of animals like sheep, then goat, they are domesticating. In third part, that is in Neolithic, they were very well aware of agriculture, and they started community life or sedentary lifestyle because they used to settle at one place, and they didn't have to travel from one place to another. And in this way, in the comparison way, you can add in a single page only, you can cover the whole Stone Age in a single page only. You don't have to explain all the important site. Okay, from this site, these tools have been found, because they are not important, as you must have analyzed right now. So this is from my part. I think I have discussed almost all the important aspects of ancient history when it comes to previous year question. Now, at last, if you have any doubts, now you can ask, and then we are going to end this session. Any doubt even related to what to study in ancient history, what are the sources? Because I took a session in which I discussed all the important books and sources from which you should read various topics. And now also, if you have any doubt, now you can ask, then we are going to end this session. Any doubts?
हेलो
हेलो
हेलो मैम।
हाय हेलो।
हाँ जी मैम, मैं पूछना चाह रही थी, जैसे एंशियंट में तो जैसे आपने मुझे टॉपिक बता दिए, बट आर्ट एंड कल्चर को लेके क्या क्या टॉपिक्स, मतलब मोस्ट प्रिपेयर क्या करना चाहिए?
जैसे अभी हमने एशियंट का डिस्कस करा एक पीडीएफ बना के प्रीवियस ईयर, वैसे ही हम एशियंट का भी करेंगे। तो उसमें हम एशियंट का डिस्कस करेंगे कि उसको कैसे हैंडल करना है, उसमें से कौन से इंपॉर्टेंट थीम है जिनमें ऐसे क्वेश्चन आते हैं। तो ये सिर्फ एशियंट हिस्ट्री के लिए है। जो अगला सेशन होगा उसमें हम आर्ट एंड कल्चर को एक्सक्लूसिवली उसको डील करेंगे और उसको एवेलुएट करेंगे।
ओके ओके, श्योर श्योर। ओके मैम, थैंक यू।
ओके, वेलकम। Any doubts?
ओके रमन, इट सीम्स हमारे बच्चे बहुत होशियार हैं, डाउट इनको कम आते हैं। तो आपने सेशन लिया,
हाँ, यही लग रहा है।
थैंक यू। और कभी भी किसी को भी कोई डाउट हो तो रमन मैम को डायरेक्टली आप रीच आउट कर सकते हैं या फिर सेको हेल्प पे मैसेज कर सकते हैं। और जो गंतव्य बैच रनिंग है उसमें हमारा गोल यही है कि सभी सब्जेक्ट्स के एटलीस्ट 11 ईयर के, जैसे कि 13 से 23 तक हम PYQ डिस्कस करें, और साथ ही उनमें किस तरीके से उन्हें प्रिपेयर करना है, कैसे मैप कर रहे हैं थीम्स को, कि क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं तो एक सिलेक्टेड थीम से आ रहे हैं। जैसा अभी मैम बता रहे थे कि कुछ सिलेक्टेड एरियाज हैं, बुद्धिज्म, जैनिज्म, IVC, जो कि बार बार पूछे जा रहे हैं। तो क्यों ना हम उन्हें इतना स्ट्रॉन्ग करें। और हम जो कहते हैं कि बहुत क्वेश्चन मुश्किल आ रहा है ये डायनेस्टीज वाला, तो क्या ऐसा नहीं हो सकता हम पूरे के पूरे डायनेस्टीज, जितने भी मेजर डायनेस्टीज हैं, कम से कम वो तो उनका टाइम पीरियड केवल, और यूपीएससी देखो डीप जा भी नहीं रहा है, केवल टाइम पीरियड के ऊपर क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है कि ये डायनेस्टीज, कौन सी डायनेस्टीज कंटेम्प्रेरी थी या फिर समकालीन थी। तो ये हम कर सकते हैं। तो इस तरीके से आप टॉपिक्स को मैप करिए और हम आपकी हेल्प करते रहेंगे, हम सेशन लेते रहेंगे ऐसे। तो रमन मैम का थैंक यू करते हैं, तो सेशन को एंड करते हैं। ठीक है रमन मैम, थैंक यू।
हैप्पी टू हेल्प।